Hi, welcome to the supplement for the main message, July the 4th. So it's not the main message, it's just some footnotes to it. Thank you for being interested enough to join me for this moment. Won't keep you long. Thank you for being here. I think a very key point in understanding today's message, or that part of Hebrews from which it comes, is verse 15 of chapter 12. Didn't include it in the reading, maybe should have done, but it's it might have led us into some other Old Testament examples which are really, really helpful and important, but there just isn't time for it all. So verse 15, I'm just going to read it to you now, New International Version. See to it that no one misses the grace of God. And I think that's a really important point about where the writer to the Hebrews is taking to us. I'm concerned, the writer is saying. People among you could miss the grace of God. You could think, well, it's surely not possible to miss the grace of God. Well, says the writer, I think, people who went to Mount Sinai when God's presence descended on it in fire and smoke and great darkness and flashes of light and the rumbling of voice like a mighty trumpet growing louder and louder till people couldn't bear it and they cried out for it to stop and they said to Moses, you go, we're not going nearer. And all that stuff that happened. They missed the grace of God after such a vivid experience. So maybe you could miss the grace of God. And I think the writer to the Hebrews is saying, actually, you have a much more powerful experience of the grace of God in Christ than the people of ancient Israel had at Mount Sinai. Christ is much more complete, much more compelling. And so don't miss the grace of God because you fail to see how compelling it is and you fail to remember and you just drift. And I think the writer is also saying to us, understand that you encounter this grace of God in Jesus in connection with encountering the church as the community of Christ that continues to make the living presence of Christ a reality in solid terms upon the earth. And so those are the concerns. And I think they're right pastoral concerns. I've been in this business a very long time. And all kinds of people who you wouldn't expect could possibly misunderstand the nature of the church do and work hard for a version of the church that they know and understand. And God bless them for that devotion. But sometimes what we work hard for is not the thing itself. It's not the treasure in the mattress. It's the old tattered mattress, to use the example I took. So COVID has moved us along and we won't be reverting to being just what we were before COVID. Of course, we'll go back to being the church that gathers together and so on, but it won't be back to simply as we were before. We've learned too much, we've gained too much, we've grown too much. And furthermore, we're now stronger and more able to address the age in which we live and secure the future of the church community than we were before. I'm not saying COVID's a good thing. Don't misunderstand me. I hate it. If I could press a button and it evaporate from the globe tomorrow, I would press the button without hesitation. But given the cost of it, as I've said before, let's not throw away the lessons it's forced us into. The church is sometimes at its best under persecution, which is a harsh reality. I don't long for us to be under persecution at all, but I recognise that it's when the church is deprived of some of the things which actually matter less than we think, that it learns to focus on what matters most. And I see in both the churches in which I minister plenty of evidence of growth during these COVID restriction times, of new strength. Yes, there are things missing and there are people missing, and those things must be attended to, and those people must be attended to as well. But I don't want to miss in all that the huge number of ways in which I can see that we've grown in strength. To the text, quickly, because I don't want to take up very much more of your time. So I've drawn your attention to verse 15, which was not in the reading. Let me draw your attention now to verse 18, where the writer really sets up this picture of comparing Mount Sinai with our encounter with God through Christ and the work of God's Spirit. You have not come to a mountain that can be touched, it says, that is burning with fire, to darkness, gloom, and storm, to a trumpet blast, or to such a voice speaking words that those who heard it begged that no further word be spoken to them. You can dig into the story of ancient Israel in the Old Testament to go to those references and to enjoy that. So, but let me just pick up how he does it. You see, verse 18, you have not come to a mountain that can be touched. Verse 22, but you have come to Mount Zion, the heavenly Jerusalem. Do you see what he's doing? Say, look, there was a mountain that can be touched, Mount Sinai, where there were very tangible expressions of God's presence that day, as told us in the story of the journey of the people of Israel across the wilderness. So you've not come to that mountain, you've come to a different mountain, Mount Zion, and you think his readers might go, oh yeah, we know Mount Zion, that's in the city of Jerusalem, isn't it? It's part of the city of Jerusalem. But he qualifies it quickly. You have not come to a mountain that can be touched, but you have come to Mount Zion, to the heavenly Jerusalem, the city of the living God. In other words, the mountain that cannot be touched, the mountain that is beyond ordinary physical senses, the mountain that is eternal. So let's see the comparisons he makes. The mountain on the one hand that is burning with fire, darkness, gloom, storm, trumpet blast, voice speaking that they pleaded to stop. As against Mount Zion, the heavenly Jerusalem. It sounds just like the book of Revelation, doesn't it, at the end, and of course for good reason. The city of the living God. You've come to the real thing. That was just a demonstration in the wilderness. This is the eternal truth in Christ. You've come to thousands upon thousands of angels in joyful assembly, not a group of people who have recently left behind a country where they were enslaved to seek their future with God in their ancestral home. But you've come to something far deeper and more ancestral than that, to your true belonging in eternity. You've come to a community that includes the very population of heaven. You're not come to the mountain that can be touched in the wilderness of Sinai. You've come to heaven. You've come to touch the very edge of heaven in Jesus. That's what you are as the community of Christ. The community of Jesus is the edge of heaven's own community, and you are bound with the angels in one body of beings. You've come, he says then, in verse 23, to the church of the firstborn ones whose names are written in heaven. In other words, you belong to a community now. You've come not to ancient Israel's mountain, but to Christ's mountain and to Christ's community, which is at one with the very angels around the throne of God. Still using the poetic images, but you see what is being said surely. You've come into the edge of eternity itself, to the throne of God himself, as it were. And you've come, and how do you come to that? Well, you don't go into the desert. You belong to the community of the firstborn ones. That's a really important term for the writer to the Hebrew. Remember that in Hebrew culture, as in other cultures of the time and place, general region, the firstborn son is the one who carries the very nature, identity, duties, privileges, tasks, commitments and responsibilities of the Father. So what's saying is you've come to the church that continues the nature, responsibilities, characteristics of God as made known and as we are joined to in Christ into the world in your time and place. You know, you've come to something extraordinary and wonderful. So here would be my point, and what in sort of putting the Hebrews into contemporary things. Stop this notion of going to church. I know I've said this before, some of you heard me say it lots of times. You can't go to church. It's not a place. It's a community of people to which you can connect, belong, with which you can hang out and explore their faith, in which you can say there's things I like about what's going on here. I want to be part of the scene. It's a community continuing the community of Christ. It is splendid. It is divine. It is sacred. Holy not because we're good at it. We're not. We're rubbish at it. But because of Christ, the high priest's great sacrifice that renders us to be the community that is connected direct into heaven in this way. Anyway, if you get the picture. So thanks for bearing with me, and would recommend a quick reread of Hebrews 12, or indeed of the whole thing of Hebrews. God bless you. See you next time.